everyone, and welcome to Celebrating Cinema. I'm back with another interview, and we're joined by none other, Martijn de Jong, here to discuss his latest film and first feature, Narcosis.
Wat als er iets gebeurt?
Dan zoek ik jou elke week op in je witte kamer.
Als ik je daar zie, dan weet ik zeker dat ik je nooit meer zal zien.
Martijn, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Firstly, congratulations on your first feature. Definitely something we'll discuss more, but perhaps you can give our audience just a quick synopsis of what Narcosis is about.
I'm always afraid of this question because it took me 2 hours to make the film to explain what I wanted to tell, and now I have to elevator pitch it. So I don't have it pitch perfect. We follow a family, a mother and 2 children, and the father is a deep professional diver. And in the beginning of the film, he goes to one of the deepest caves in the world in South Africa, but he doesn't resurface. He doesn't come up. So there's no body, no proof, but they know he's gone. And the film follows the remainders of this family, the mother and the 2 children, in their bereavement and their way of coping with this. And of course, they lose each other. So it's a film about grief, but we tried and tended to make a film that's also about love, about family, and a film that hopefully embraces you or gives you hope as well in this dark theme.
Something quickly also to add is the mother also has this ability to speak with the dead.
Yeah, she has this ability to make contact with people who are gone. She being able talking to deceased people, to the dead, was quite a tricky thing as we talked about Dutch culture. It's more of a Southern culture if we're in Europe thing, where it's more accepted. Here it's quite, you're a con artist or you're crazy. And in this film, but also I don't want to give that away actually. In this film, we tried to make an agreement with you, like, okay, she can do it if you agree with it or not. She's quite grounded with it. It's something she can do. She's not tricking. This is what she does. She doesn't sell it to anyone, whatever, oversell it. So that was quite an exciting thing for us to try out. Can we in Holland? So we're quite skeptical people on this topic. So that was quite a fun thing for us to search on. And I hope that we found a way for you to get along and agree. But now that I'm telling it, it feels almost like I'm asking you, please go along with it. But that's not at all what I wanted to say.
For me, while watching it definitely wasn't an obstacle. It felt very natural, almost, what was happening, which I think only lends itself to the story you're trying to tell. And obviously, throughout the film, she's fighting with the urge to speak with her dead husband. She's wanting to avoid it as hard as she's trying to keep it out. But going back to what you picked upon as the main theme of it being grief as well as love, what I really liked is you really do have these 3 characters, the mother, the son, and the daughter, all on their own journey of grief and how they're dealing with the loss of someone very important in their life. But the fact that it's tied by these recurring memories, each from different perspectives, not necessarily just from the mother, although it's told mainly from her recollection of certain memories, I think you do really get that sense of love and family connection that sort of overrides and is what is left at the end of the film. Why you wanted to tell this particular story?
Yeah, exactly as you say. That's so. I wrote it together with my partner. So we have 2 kids ourselves, and we were touched by this theme of loss, but especially the other side of it about when this occurs, suddenly everything gets more meaning. So it's easy to overlook all the best things in life, which are, in our opinion, the small things, the little things, the everyday things. And this film explores a bit what happens if you lose the chance to embrace life the way you have it and celebrate this life. So suddenly we push this family into a situation where there's no way back. And hopefully for us, as still family and as viewers, we get a sense of the love of our own family or friends. So this was a big inspiration, is maybe a big word, but that was lying underneath while writing and finding a way to tell this story. So it was never about, let's tell something about grief because we know so much about this or whatever. It was about these other sides that suddenly surface.
I mean, I didn't realize it was with your partner that you wrote the story, which I think adds to this next question I had, in the sense that what did this film, in making it, teach you, not necessarily about grief, but also these, what's important to you, these sort of smaller things that we perhaps overlook? Was there something that surprised you when making this film that you didn't quite recognize before?
Well, Laura, the screenwriter, she has this talent of picking these everyday things, and by picking them as a filmmaker and putting them on a pedestal, I don't know, is that the right word? But
Yeah.
putting like a mundane thing and putting it on a script and really exploring this little thing. Let's take an example. An easy one is the character in our film. She drives a car. So most of the time when she starts the car, the boot opens up.
Yeah.
So then someone has to get out, put it back up, and then you can drive, which that's funny one time. 10 times it's annoying. And then when your husband says, yeah, I'll fix it, but he doesn't. So then it becomes like this marital everyday conflict. And that's how we learn to get to know them. Later on in the film, when he's no longer there, and suddenly this is something she wants to keep. Suddenly you can look at it from a different perspective. So that this annoying thing that he didn't fix it, when then later on you'd fix it, you'd lose a part of him, actually, of him not fixing it. That's just inspired from our car. We had this old Renault. It was electric. And every time I started, it's so annoying. And then, okay, who has to get out? I know I start. So then we went from, okay, I'll start it. And she waited outside the car, but then the boot didn't open. And then, it gets this annoying thing. But when we take it and put it in the film, suddenly it's a storytelling tool.
Mm.
So when you know you're going to write a script or a story, suddenly you get these antennas out, and everything and everyone around you can become a huge inspiration or a part of the story. It could fit in one way or another.
That often helps to tell a better story in my eyes, because it gives that sense of realism, or these sort of trivial things we can connect with or relate to. And I think you do that really well with how the film is pretty much fixed around the house.
Yeah.
And what the house means. And there's so many small details that you do well in picking up, in like when they play hide and seek, and there's this certain playful element that the father does when he pretends to hide in different spots by leaving a smiley face. I think it's stuff like that again, you're heightening those things that, like you said before, we really take for granted perhaps. And this is obviously your first feature film, but you have sort of, I think if I'm right, a career in the creative sector of directing commercials and other kinds of visual media. I wondered, how did those elements of storytelling help you with making this film?
I'm sure it does. As practicing and finding ways to tell a story helps. And also in more commercial side, you have to be very aware of how something will come across to an audience. And that's something I think naturally I'm quite, well, let's say I admire some directors who can just have their own vision and they're blind on this vision. And sometimes this explodes into a magnificent film. I really admire this for myself. I'm always aware of the people and meanings around me. And in commercials, that's quite a handy tool because you have a lot of politics also around it.
Sure.
In film, it could be a danger of becoming middle of the road, So for me, knowing this about myself, it was, so every crew member that I select, can I be myself, or will they conflict in a way, which conflict is good, but not in a way that I want to move myself towards their meaning. So it helps a lot in getting to know myself on set and before and after as a director.
So then my question to you would be, what do you love about fictional filmmaking or feature filmmaking so much to make the transition from your everyday commercial work that you do or your day job? What is it that you enjoy most about being able to tell stories in this form?
For me, I have two careers actually in this. So I did the Academy of Arts, and then I did the Film Academy. And after the Film Academy, I did some short films. And in between, I did commercials. Then we got two kids. And the commercial short span was really fun and nice to have in this period of time. And I was always sure that I would make a feature film, but maybe So I started some scripts, but always once they were almost there, I jumped off the train because I felt, it's not there, it's not good enough. Or I don't know what, maybe it's fear of making your first feature because it has to be good. This film actually was a part of the oversteek, it's called in Dutch. So it's part of a starting filmmaker plan where you have to write a synopsis or a treatment, then some get selected and they can write a script, and then you get selected and they can write a film. So it was kind of a contest, and this helps me a lot, and I want to win every step of the contest because that's just, and then before I knew it, we could make it. I remember actually that I still had a phone call with Trent, the producer. I said, okay, so can we find maybe another director now? Because he said, no, shut up. You have to do it now. You have to go. So thank him for that, because probably fear of making it. It was always there to want to make a feature.
But why?
Sorry. Why?
Yeah.
Well, that's a great question. For me, of course, the process of making a film is such a privilege. It's so mesmerizing to be able to be on set and creating this with all these people around you, and to go into edit and know that it's not 3 days, but you have months of trying to find and tell the story, of trying to find the way this actor acted and make it better and better. And so the process is one, apart from the pre-production, because I really don't like that. Also, the other thing is, okay, we want to tell stories. We want to move people. We want to try to add something. And always then I think I should make a film that's shouting like a big social message or a political message or anything like that, which, by the way, I think is very much needed. But at the same time, I'm always looking at these kind of films, which are very admirable, but also I always am left with the feeling, okay, so the people who agree with this stay on this side, and the people who don't agree use it as a stick. You see them with their pointy fingers,
Yeah.
So in the end, I'm maybe a bit, I'm not sure if it works. For us, this small thing, and now the reactions we get about, someone said, like, after watching the film, said, I loved it, and I want to talk about it, but actually I just want to go home and hug my kids. And then I think, there we have this. On this small scale, I think I can add something and make someone appreciate their life or their loved ones or whatever a bit more, have suddenly this heightened feeling for a week.
I don't think you can get a better review than that, to be honest.
Yeah, it was amazing. These kind of reactions, we hope to move people and give people this feeling we have while writing and listening to the music and diving into this while writing. And we have this feeling which I cannot set to words, as you see, but it's something through film we can give. I cannot write songs, otherwise I probably would love to do that. And I think that's another great way to the heart. In film, I hope we can.
Yeah. So I think to sort of summarize what you're saying is that this idea of wanting to connect with people, or wanting people to connect with things that you think are important through the films that you share, no matter how big or small, it's just as important either way.
Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah. Thank you.
This probably leads to my next question. Hopefully you remember this. In a previous interview, you said how many people assume that a Dutch film cannot be good, and if it does happen, they hardly dare to admit it. With your film obviously selected as the Netherlands nomination for an Oscar, could you expand on this a bit more? For me, also being an international in the Netherlands, I still haven't been able to quite click why Dutch filmmakers haven't been able to necessarily break through into the international market or into the international film scene, because from what I see, there isn't necessarily a lack of talent. It's just, I just don't know what is lacking.
Yeah. So maybe there's two questions, because the quote I think I was saying is like, in Holland, if you even see a Dutch film and it's good, then you need an excuse. It's quite good for a Dutch film.
Yeah.
He drives great for a 3-year-old. So that always is a sentence that we put in there, and that's what this was about. Saying, I hope one day it would be, we don't need this sentence anymore. It's just there's always this shame a bit on watching Dutch films, but that's for the Dutch culture. I don't know why it's abroad.
Yeah.
So that's another topic, actually. On that one, in the Netherlands, I think we have quite a hard, literally like a square language.
Yeah.
We also talk that way. We are quite blunt. And in film, most of the time, the unsaid works better.
Yeah.
So dialogue is a difficult thing for us. So there's all these kinds of reasons why it's quite hard to listen to. But I know now Dutch music again has like a bit of revival, I think, in Holland. And I hope film follows. But for the international questions, it's probably a better one to ask you, because I guess you watched some Dutch films by now.
Yeah. Funny enough, I don't know if it's often because of the translations, but I do recognize what you're saying in terms of dialogue. The dialogue is very stale or to the point. It's too direct in a way that it doesn't leave much to reveal.
Yeah.
What I always admire is so artistic, the way that filmmakers can envision shooting things. And I think that's probably why you see a lot of successful Dutch cinematographers break into the wider film industry. But yeah, I think in terms of storytelling, I think either the right people aren't being given the right opportunities to tell stories, or because I think, again, there's so much. That would probably be my other answer. I find the stories are often from the same perspective or telling a very similar thing over and over again. And yet, living in Amsterdam, especially, there's such a richness to the culture and mix of the people, despite whether they share being Dutch as the nationality. And I think that isn't explored enough for me in film.
Yeah. So what you're saying is like there's so much more culture and subcultures
exactly
to dive into
yeah
from perspective from which to tell a story. But then again, that's I think in Holland true. For international films, I think it's like a typical Dutch culture should be exotic. So the mundane, the normal Dutch culture, which for us could be an exotic scenery.
Yeah.
So for me, it isn't, but I can imagine
for others it is.
Yeah. So for instance, my girlfriend, she wrote children's film based on a book, Mijn bijzonder rare week met Tess, my special week with Tess. And it did amazingly well abroad. And it's beautifully shot on Terschelling, one of the islands we have, with a lot of dunes, and it's wonderful. So I thought, well, one of the USPs on this film probably is the scenery. And then I suddenly thought, so actually, of course, abroad, Holland has a beautiful scenery. Only we sometimes refuse to see this.
Maybe also because people are probably too used to seeing Amsterdam in film, sort of these iconic canals, and then there's again not much variation.
But I don't know. I don't have the answer on this. Sorry.
No, but it's interesting because I'm sure you mix in these circles where it is hopefully a topic of discussion.
Yeah, definitely.
What are some of your moments of cinema that have stuck with you, hopefully both Dutch and other filmmakers as well?
There's one in particular in film school I remember that I saw, like in the first year, you look at all these, at Monday morning, you go into the theater and you watch these, by then I thought after a while, heavy films, which is hard as a student after the weekend, Monday morning, and you fall asleep, and then by act 3 you wake up and you try to make something of it. But I remember then graduating and trying to find a way how to and suddenly I had this feeling of I have seen this film once. It was so good. I suddenly felt how good it was. It was almost as if it was from another life. I couldn't remember any story. I couldn't remember anything of it. And I went talking to it. So there's this scene in a room, and it's sweaty, and the camera turns, and there's this stewardess or something, neon city, and I was looking for months, telling everyone for the story. And then in the end, said, well, ask the teacher of the Monday morning in the first year. And then I talked to him, and he said, I think it's this one. And he showed me, he told me the DVD, and I brought it home, and it was Wong Kar-wai's Chungking Express. And that was one I saw on the first year. And the fourth year, after 4 years, I suddenly felt that it was a good movie.
Wow.
But I never realized for 4 years long, it had to work on me in some way, and suddenly it clicked. It was such an amazing experience. From then on, I watched it over and over again. It was such a I watched all of his films. His films are very much on this subconscious, poetic level, and I really, really love it.
It's amazing that after 4 years, you still have the memory of that film, even though it seemed like you weren't attached to the film when you first saw it.
Probably when I first saw it, I thought it was a bit boring, and I liked this, I was busy in my head with something else, and I didn't get it. I just didn't get it. It was foreign language. And after 4 years, probably being a bit older by there, I don't know what. And then suddenly I got it without seeing it again.
Yeah.
It was so weird.
Are there any other films that have left sort of a similar mark on you? Because that's quite unique. I don't know if you can top that.
Yeah, I don't know. I also really loved Me and You and Everyone We Know, Miranda Julie's debut film. Other ones I'm not sure, but I really love the playfulness of that. I remember also in film school there was this, which was the discussion by then. Some found it a bit cliche, maybe. So it was Ik omhels je met 1000 armen. Is I embrace you with 1,000 arms. Probably the first year we went to film school and we had to go to the Dutch Film Festival and then really watch Dutch films in cinema. And probably it was one of the first times I really did this with the bigger films. I was quite young, actually, I think, probably. Suddenly I felt this, yeah, it really moved me, and I think I was crying in cinema, and then I went outside, and the other one said, yeah, whatever, man. It was a bit, sugary. I have this cheap emotion. I'm not fit for the film school. I remember I haven't ever watched it again. It was just it worked for me, and I was moved by it. So maybe these three are all in different corners of cinema, but I'm almost always enjoying film. I'm lucky with that. Yeah.
I hope people will be moved by watching your film Narcosis, not just because it's a Dutch film.
No, they have to see for themselves, of course.
Exactly. And they can do that by going to the cinemas now, because it's out now in cinemas in the Netherlands. So, Martijn, I just want to say thank you very much, and I wish you all the best. Look forward to discussing the next one with you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me again.